Hello, hello everyone. My name is Basilisk, and welcome to For Fun and Profit. So let's get started. Okay, so here we go. Earlier this week, during the Pre-3 and E3 After Party 1 Nerdcasts, which are hosted over on Zack Snyder Productions, I'll post a link in the description below. I expressed a dislike for Bethesda RPGs, saying I found them to be unimmersive, boring, poorly built, and buggy. Given the reaction I got at the time, I decided it would be a good idea for me to make a video explaining why I felt this way about Bethesda RPGs, since trying to do so in a group chat while also talking about E3 means it doesn't come across very well. Now, before we get started, I want to make clear that most of this is purely subjective. We good? Okay, onward! Let's start off with the things I consider objective complaints, and that pretty much narrows down to the bugs. Bethesda's bugs are nearly legendary at this point. Everyone watching can probably think of more than a few. And they have run the gamut for me over the Bethesda RPGs I've played. Character faces vanishing in Morrowind, erratic ragdolls in Oblivion, disappearing audio in Fallout 3, permanently invincible enemies in Fallout New Vegas, that was fun. Falling through the world whenever I tried to enter a certain town in Skyrim. Yeah, that swamp town, in the one that's in the swamp with that one gate. Didn't matter how I tried to enter it, I felt I would fall through the world every single fucking time. They've been varied, they've been infuriating, and they've been game-breaking more than a few times. Now, I've heard people say that, oh, that's all okay, you can just use mods to fix it.
No! None of that! Shame on you!
When a multi-million-dollar entertainment business releases a product, we should not have to rely on the community to fix basic functionality. I will install a mod to add new content, new skins, or things of that nature. I will never, ever install a mod just to make the game work properly. When I buy a $60 game from a professional AAA level game company, I expect it to work properly, and I expect them to have worked out most of the bugs. Yeah, I know it's impossible to work out all of the bugs, but I shouldn't have to deal with menus that crash the game whenever I tried to load my skills. I wound up having to restart Fallout 3 because of that one when I tried to play that. Ugh. To Bethesda's fans that use the excuse of you can just mod it to excuse bugs that completely break the game whenever being fixed, you need to stop. When a company releases a buggy, glitchy game, it is their responsibility to fix it, not the community's. You are enabling a lazy, half-assed, inexcusable model of business, and you have got to stop it or it will only get worse. If you want Bethesda and their games to improve, you have to hold them responsible for their own products, or they will just keep doing this shit. Now, as to the more subjective issues, the fact is, I don't find Bethesda RPGs very immersive or engaging. There's a couple of reasons for this, aside from the bugs anyways. The characters tend to be either painfully stupid or so cartoonishly evil that they could start cursing out Captain Planet and it wouldn't sound out of character. It's possible that this is so incredibly jarring to me because I'm a writer myself, and the poor writing in these games tends to stand out more because of it. Honestly, it gets to the point of being painful to listen to after a while. Ugh. In addition, I find their open worlds tend to be pretty boring. The world of Fallout is just flat unappealing for me to explore, and while Tamriel is nice looking at first, it gets really generic and samey after a while. There's not enough variance in the terrain to make it truly interesting to explore, since the type of terrain you're exploring never has that much of an impact on the characters, and this really isn't helped by how movement in Bethesda RPGs tends to feel. It's really floaty, like they're standing on a pocket of air as they're moving around. Basically, what I'm saying is that because of this, going up a cliff has pretty much the same impact as just walking across a flat plain, unless it's just really steep. And in that case, in Skyrim, you can just ride a horse. This is made worse by the side quests, though. There's a few quest lines in Bethesda RPGs that are really well done, but the majority of them tend to be really samey. Go to the place and kill the thing, or go to the place and find the thing. And it gets really, really old pretty fast. Now, I know other RPGs, MMOs in particular, do this too, and it isn't good there either. So I'm not saying they're the only company that does that. It's actually a big problem with a lot of RPGs that use a quest system with a lot of side quests. But the problem with Bethesda RPGs is that there's so many of them that it becomes more of an issue earlier. They also tend to have a focus on having a lot of open world rather than having an open world with a lot of stuff in it. So you can go for a long time without having much anything of interest happening. a big point with for the advertising of Fallout 76, I believe is the name, is that it's got 4 times the open worlds. It's got an open world size that's 4 times the size of Fallout 4. Grand. What the fuck is there to do in this massive open world? Again, this is a problem a lot of open world games have, and it's also, but yeah, I don't like a lot of open world games because of this. It's part of the reason I don't like Ubisoft games very much, is that there's not much to do when they're open worlds. And what there is tends to be really samey. So, yeah, it's not just a Bethesda thing, but it is a reason I'm not a big fan of Bethesda games. Anyways, as for the world building, I've heard people say that Bethesda is really good at building worlds that feel alive and natural and intricate, and I couldn't disagree more. Bethesda is really good at telling you about the worlds, but 97% of what they tell you has nothing to do with anything that happens in the game. 20,000 pages of lore, something like that in Skyrim, and you can safely ignore most of them because you won't miss a damn thing by doing so. If the whole game takes place in a single province, why are you telling me shit that happens 5,000 miles away and doesn't affect anything that's going on in the province where the game takes place? Look, games have a very limited number of words to tell a story with. If you want to build a living world, focus those words on telling me about the part of the world I'm exploring, the characters I'm interacting with, the enemies I'm fighting, the dungeons I'm in, all that. These are the things I wind up caring about as a player because those are the things that have an impact on the world as I experience it. Don't spend time telling me about supply issues someplace I've never heard of, won't visit, or have any form of interaction with, whether it's through another character or a side quest that mentions it. It's a waste of your time and mine. Look, I'm not a... BioWare RPGs these days aren't that good either, but the codex in BioWare games always focuses on characters you've met, places you've been, enemies you've encountered, skills you've used. Those things help to build the world because it's all stuff that the player interacts with directly. Whereas in Bethesda games, you will find books upon books of either just straight up in-game storytelling, which is nice in theory, but but those usually wind up being too short to really be interesting. And if I wanted to read a completely separate story, I'd read a completely separate story. I wouldn't read 5 pages of a completely separate story in a game I'm trying to play. It's really weird. And then there's the issues where half the stuff they bring up doesn't even wind up mattering. It's problematic. Finally, we have the combat. Look, fuck me. Look, the combat in Bethesda RPGs is some of the worst in the genre. The enemies barely react to being hit, so it feels like you might as well be wielding empty pixie stick wrappers. There's very little variety to the enemy types, and they get boring to fight. So they get boring to fight. Misread my line. And there's very little reason to try using the more flashy and elaborate attacks when it's faster and more effective to just use the most common weapon types. The combat systems outright feel like they disincentivize you from using the cooler attacks in favor of the simplest ones, since doing so makes fights take longer, consumes more resources, and even then doesn't feel like it has a bigger impact. So the strongest reactions attacks get the same reaction as the weakest. I can walk up and smack a dragon with my sword, and it doesn't get any more of an impact than breathing at it with my fully worded out fire shout thing. It's some of the dullest, least entertaining combat I've ever had to slog through in an RPG. In the end, I will never understand why Bethesda RPGs get the praise they do. They're bloated, they're boring, they're poorly written, they're glitchy, they're repetitive, and they lack anything that makes them stand out from other games in the genre, except Skyrim's dragon fights, which were the only thing that held that game up, and even then they get boring after you become strong enough that they aren't any more of a threat than the thousands of Draugr you've been fighting since the beginning of the game. Ugh. But at this point, you've probably got a question. If I dislike Bethesda RPGs so much, why have I played so many of them? Well, there's 2 reasons for this. The first is people talk about Bethesda RPGs so much that I keep getting pushed into trying the next one just to see if they fixed any of the numerous issues. The second is a similar reason why I keep playing modern military shooters, even though I hate that subgenre's base mechanics and general tropes with a burning passion. Bethesda games bring in a massive audience, and if I want to be able to truly talk about game design at a high level, I can't just ignore them. I found the occasional rare gem in the modern military shooter subgenre. The original Modern Warfare story was actually pretty good. Resistance 2 was just generally good. And I've heard really good things about Spec Ops The Line, which is on my list to try here shortly. So, yeah. And I'm sure I'll eventually find one in a Bethesda RPG somewhere that grabs me. Maybe the recently announced Starfield or Elder Scrolls 6 will fix a lot of these issues and just really get me. Or maybe not. But either way, I'll still wind up playing them along with Fallout 4 and Fallout 76 when I get a console that can play those, even if it's only for research purposes. Honestly, though, I do hope that Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6 and Fallout 76 are all good, because I don't actually have anything against Bethesda fans except for being told that I can use mods to fix the bugs. So I hope you all enjoy those when they come out. And honestly, hopefully you all found this entertaining. And I'm not trying to change anyone's opinion on Bethesda RPGs. This isn't this kind of video. This is more of a bias disclosure. I am going to talk about Bethesda RPGs in the future. It will probably be heavily critical when I do. So hopefully this explained why I don't like them, and that way people have this video to look at whenever I bring up the fact that I don't think they're very good. So, yeah. So, thank you all so much for watching. This is my Basilisk, and I will see you all next time. Thank you, and good night, folks.